How's it going? It's Christmas Eve in New Zealand, in Aotearoa. My name's Robert Davis, and I'm just about to cook up some schnitzel for my son Didi and his girlfriend, his partner Xavier, and I'm actually going to teach them about that. I also had a good chat with my daughter Stella about schnitzel making. She's in London, and yeah, I've cooked a lot of schnitzel in my time bringing them up. In fact, Stella, when she was 10 or 11, used to have kind of 3 or 4 pieces in the evening and then wake up in the morning, have 3 or 4 pieces and then have it for lunch. So I've learned to cook a lot. Okay, just buy schnitzel from the supermarket. Okay, I usually buy it on special and freeze it, stock up. You don't need big pieces. Traditionally they used to do quite big pieces, but the small pieces are actually kind of better because they're more manageable. Because when I cook my schnitzel, bits of schnitzel actually kind of get bigger through the crumbing process. I cook with olive oil in a pan, with a very nice controlled heat, not too hot. When I'm cooking the oil, if it gets a bit crummy, I will change it, making sure I don't put the oil down the sink. So I put it into a can or something, be careful, it's all hot, and then I'll wipe it out with a cloth and then a paper towel, and then put it in. But it's just really important to get the oil up to a reasonable temperature, but not hot and definitely not smoking. You need to pay attention because shallow oil can ignite, particularly when it's smoking. I've always had a tea towel on hand if it does ignite by mistake, so I can smother it. Never use water, of course. Just smother it, or like a pan lid is great. Smother, stop the oxygen. And I think particularly when you're around kids, which I have been cooking schnitzel around kids, is just safe, making sure they're not running around you, blah blah blah, because that hot oil, it just takes seconds for there to be a significant incident. So use olive oil, good quality olive oil. Just a simple pan. Make sure your pan is, if it's non-stick, it's not damaged, okay, because that the Teflon is harmful. So I just get the schnitzel pieces from the supermarket. I just use simple plain flour. The breadcrumbs I use they're just your simple white breadcrumbs, which are generally quite fine from the supermarket. I've used panko, I've used brown. Brown isn't very good because it burns quite easily, and panko are quite coarse, so you don't get that really good covering of the schnitzel. So you really need to get a good covering on that schnitzel. Okay, get everything prepared. I use free range eggs. Use plenty of egg mixture. Don't skimp on the egg mixture. And I have put a little bit of milk in before when I don't have as much eggs, but I prefer not to do that. And I tend to, today I'm going to do maybe 20 pieces, and then so I'll crumb 2 pieces per person. So 3 people. So I'll probably do about 10 pieces, and then the rest I'll freeze. And all I really do is crumb it and then put it and layer it in a greaseproof paper, and then wrap it in foil so it doesn't dry out. and goes in the freezer, and it's nice to have that crumbed schnitzel in the freezer. And because it's so thin, you can bring it out, 2 pieces at a time easily without sticking, and within literally 5 minutes it'll be thawed out. And it's quite easily transportable to different locations. I like freezing too things, particularly meats, because I believe it helps to tenderize things a bit. So I take my time. The first thing I always do, and if you can do this the day before, all good, because it just helps everything and all the crumbs settle in and become, as one with the schnitzel, if you know what I mean. And because you've refrigerated the ones you're going to cook, it just keeps it right down to a nice temperature. It's like making cookies. You always refrigerate your cookie dough, so when you come to cook it, it's easy to manage, but also you get more of a gooey center in the cookies. It's the same with schnitzel. You don't want to overcook the schnitzel. In fact, it's always nice for that schnitzel to be just ever slightly medium rare, and then it's kind of really nice. I prepare all my things, my plates. I like to have the oven on a very low heat with like 50 degrees Celsius, with my lots of paper towels, make sure they don't burn, but at 50 degrees they shouldn't. So it's just a really light heat to just keep it warm. Lots of paper towels to mop up all that excess oil. But if you're cooking at the right heat, you shouldn't get a lot of oil. So the first thing is I prepare my chain of schnitzel making. Flour, good bowl, make sure it's a good nice deep bowl where you can really flour the schnitzel and not get flour everywhere. I prepare my breadcrumbs. So over prepare is nothing worse than getting sort of 5 pieces to the end and you have to redo the breadcrumbs and stuff. Point on breadcrumbs that have meat dipped in of any types, throw them out at the end. Do not save them. They will make you sick. Breadcrumbs. So heaps of breadcrumbs. Nice, again, a nice bowl plate where I can put it flat and then push it down. Lots of mixed herbs. Okay, we have it in New Zealand. It's just basically a whole bunch of herbs mixed together. Plenty of salt. I just use a simple table salt. It's usually quite fine. Meat loves salt. And pepper. I use 2 types of pepper, usually a fine black or white pepper. And then I use a cracked pepper to give it some flavour. Eggs, free range, whisk them. Sometimes in the eggs I might put maybe a little bit of some strong chili, just to give a little bit of a hint. Not too strong, but just gives a hint of flavour. You can put, I've got another little curry, Indian curry sauce that you can use. It was made in Coromandel, and I can put that on like cheese and crackers and stuff. So I could put that in there, just gives it that little hint of flavour, which is kind of quite interesting. And you could put that in the egg, whisk the eggs well. In your breadcrumbs, if you have, I used to have quite a lot of herbs, oregano, thyme, stuff like that, which were fresh. And I'd have my my blender, and I'd blend the breadcrumbs up. Well, first I'd blend my herbs, green herbs up. A little bit of olive oil, give a bit, something. Maybe a little bit of garlic in there. Wouldn't be bad. If you want to put other things, maybe some lemon juice, just to give it a bit of flavour, and just give it a bit of, not too much moisture, but just blend it up, and then blend it up with your breadcrumbs, making sure that when you're blending it, you're not heating it up too much, because blending creates heat. So you just want to blend it all together, and you can get an outcome where your breadcrumbs look kind of green, so maybe good for St. Patrick's Day or something like that. But when you cook it, sometimes the green goes away, but sometimes it doesn't. But it tastes amazing, absolutely amazing having green kind of herbs. So I prepare my chain well. I lay my chain out so it's ready to go. I do it. It's the first job I do. I like to do it beforehand. Well, it's 2 o'clock right now. Gonna eat at 6. I'd probably be doing it now. I'm getting it all ready at kind of 2, so it's all nice and ready and chilled, and all ready to go. No rush. Do not rush schnitzel. And do not skimp. If you skimp, you're just going to get boring breadcrumb, just something like it was made 20, 30 years ago. What else? Oh, the other thing you can do is, so it's obviously flour, as you put a number of pieces in the flour, and really make sure it's all coated really, really well with flour. Don't dry off the schnitzel. You want your schnitzel to be moist so it really sucks up that flour. The flour is important. I don't shake it off, the flour. I just put it straight in the egg. And often what I'll have is I'll have all my pieces in the egg at the same time. Now some people stop there. You can do like a double. I haven't done it, but it's easy to do. Is do it, get the piece of schnitzel from the egg, put it back in the flour, back in the egg. That's like a double flouring, double egg kind of process. All it really does is it just makes your schnitzel egg mixture with the flour really nice and gooey. So essentially when you come to crumb it, it's going to really stick to those crumbs. And I think that's kind of the key thing. What some people do is they then stop there night before and they'll put that in the fridge, obviously covered, still in the egg, so it really gets that nice sort of sticky gooiness ready for the crumbing. Okay, so let's assume we've done that, whatever method. We've got our nice sticky schnitzel, had the flour, got the egg, and then it comes to the crumbing. Okay, so my crumbs are nicely mixed with all the herbs or whatever's in there. Everything's all mixed together. Just be careful with the salt. You don't put too much, but meat loves salt, so I usually put a decent amount in there. But the fine salt's really good because it really mixes with the crumbs. So my process with the crumbing is, I bring a piece out, I make sure it's really well coated with egg, and it goes in the crumbs. Make sure you've got lots of crumbs prepared, okay? And then it's a process of really one side, turn it, I get some crumbs, put it on top, and I press. And I do that for about 4 times, press. And so first 2 or 3 times it's still a bit sort of moist, but that's good. That's a really good sign. And then eventually you get a really nice caking of crumbs. Be careful, okay? The key is you want to maintain that nice crusting of the uncooked breadcrumbs on the schnitzel. And then onto the plate. And you just do that process. Just be careful when you're putting it on there. I mean, if they're well crumbed, they're not going to stick together, and then straight in the fridge. It's kind of at that point you think, okay, do I want to freeze some? And then you then work through that process of, greaseproof paper, bit of schnitzel, fold it over, bit of schnitzel, fold it over. Once you're all done, then wrap it. Sometimes I've wrapped it in like plastic wrap to just seal it up so it doesn't dry out in the freezer. But with my schnitzel, it doesn't last a long time in the freezer. It pretty much gets done. You can do that, same process with chicken. I'm going to talk about that at the end. I don't use a lot of pork in schnitzel. I know it's a traditional way. In New Zealand, I don't use a lot of pork. I'd use organic, free-range pork. We've got some issues with our pork here in New Zealand in terms of the way they're farmed, so I'm particularly particular about my pork. So most of our beef is free-range, grass-fed, pretty much. So I know that for a fact. And then when it comes to cooking it, a decent amount of olive oil, not too much, in the pan. I don't know, half a centimetre. Don't crowd the pan. If they're small enough, you can put 2 in there. Get it up to nice temperature. Test it. I usually get a little bit of, I know there's different ways you can test it, but I usually get a little bit of crumbs and just put a little bit in there, and if it sizzles away, I think, okay, I'm ready to go. Have everything ready, so you're cooking and you're going to put it in your flat plate with your bread, with your paper towels. Okay, so everything's all ready, and then just basically go cook them. You don't want to brown. They want to be brown, but don't burn them, and just control that heat. Just make sure that it's well, and then there's going to be crumbs that are going to come off the schnitzel. So when it gets a bit too many crumbs, it's time to change the oil and just restart again, because it's nothing worse than burnt breadcrumbs, because remember, those breadcrumbs have already been kind of dried out, so they're kind of, I don't know, half cooked or something like that, so you want to be quite particular. So this pressing method and turning and putting in pushing, what it does is it increases, first thing, it makes sure your schnitzel's really crumbed well with plenty of the crumbs, okay? But all the pressing and stuff, it actually increases the thickness of the schnitzel, so you get a really nice, solid, sticky layer of crumbs on the schnitzel. Freezing it, I think, helps to set it kind of well. And yeah, that's basically kind of it. A new technique I've used for chicken schnitzel, I don't use a lot of chicken schnitzel. I'm not a fan of breast chicken. I don't particularly like the way chickens are created and made. So organic's good, but a breast, instead of cutting it across, the grain goes down with the chicken. Cut it down, okay, into a thickness which is big enough for your bit of schnitzel, and then get your basher and basically tenderize and flatten it out. Because you're cutting it down, it kind of cuts across the grain, not with the grain. And I tried that recently, and that was really, really nice, and I really enjoyed it. So that's how I'd cut my kind of schnitzel. And then you don't get big pieces, which I think is really good. Other than that, it's pretty much the process. Don't rush. Be safe. You're dealing with hot oil. Quality ingredients, although the breadcrumbs are just your standard white breadcrumbs, nothing too fancy. And look at different variations to what you're doing. For example, if you are soaking that floured and egged mixture overnight, whatever you've put in the egg, for example, a little bit of chili stuff or whatever you want, that's really going to soak into the schnitzel, and you're going to get a stronger flavour. But make sure it's covered. And I mean, of course, there's nothing better than storing that schnitzel that's been cooked in a container and having it in the fridge, and nothing better than waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning and having a little bit of schnitzel. So yeah, that's really good, and I think that's when you start to get the flavour coming out. Enjoy. Just thought I'm wearing my 95 BFM famous t-shirt. You can work that one out for yourself. It's a famous advertisement on 95 BFM. Okay, it's Robert Davis over and out in terms of the Christmas schnitzel. Have a go. I think schnitzel is one of those things, if you've got all the right ingredients, it's a really great meal and everyone loves it. My kids have suggested that, Stella suggested we have a a schnitzel bake-off to see which one's the best. Yeah, and it's like anything. This is one thing I think I observed with my mother. She never told me, but the more you cook something on a regular basis, the better you get at it because you're repeating it. So the first times, if you've never done it before, the first times like, and then you kind of learn. So just keep on repeating doing it. That's how you get better at these kind of things. And it's the same with baking. My mum would bake a range of different things, but she would do often the same things all the time, and they were amazing. She just got really, really good at it. I suppose it's like anything in life. Okay, kia ora, and have a good Christmas and New Year from 25 into 26. Keep positive, keep happy, and talk to you, I don't know, probably talk to you at no time. Okay, bye.